What's happening, peeps? And welcome to TaAF Talks, the show all about influencing positive change and doing things differently. I'm Jamie Ward, the Programme Manager and Creative Lead for Together an Active Future. My job title grows each time I do it. And with me, as always, is the perfectly polished, pristine, and bit of a pleb, Ken Massey.
These are getting better every time.
Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone, and hopefully you're going to enjoy this one. I think it'll be another fairly short one, but we're hoping to keep it snappy and high energy. Today we're talking all about secondments and the value, the pros and cons, the positives and negatives of having seconded staff in a project like Together an Active Future. So just for a bit of context, Together an Active Future is this project looking at system change across Pennine, Lancashire, and our core team probably has 2 or 3, maybe 4 kind of full-time staff, and then 3 or 4 seconded-in staff who do a variety of 1, 2, 3 days a week. And we just there's some really great positives to that model, but we just wanted to talk about, what are those strengths of using secondees and what are the challenges with that as something you to learn from, and as you look at perhaps some of the listeners think about doing projects in the future, they might give them some context to weigh up about secondees.
Absolutely. And definitely that with a view to we're learning as we go of the, like you said, the pros and cons of this. So it's a great chance to share some of that learning because we might do something differently in the future as this moves on, and for other listeners who may be currently toying with the idea of that. So, and we've got 2 different perspectives here as well, because I think you are one of those secondees, if that's the right word, where you basically work on a TaAF, from a TaAF perspective for 1 day a week, and me as the programme manager for TaAF, I'm kind of responsible for trying to ensure that we're doing the things that we need to be doing when we need to be doing, and that therefore means I need to try to manage the people in the team to do some of that. And so my perspective is how you manage secondees who aren't in the team on a regular basis. So there's 2 different perspectives. So let's take it from your viewpoint firstly, Ken, and then I'll interject when you've got something horribly wrong.
Okay. So from my perspective, it's been just a brilliant experience for a few reasons, really. One, I think for me it's been a really great break from the norm. So I love my job at Leisure Trust and the stuff I'm doing in terms of Rossendale as a place. But it's been great to have a new team, fresh people, different kind of vibe and feel to the way that we work, very collaborative and kind of group focused. And I found it really energising to come here on a Monday and be part of that creative thinking and all of the stuff that we do that's been really enjoyable, and it's been right up my street in terms of things that I'm interested in and passionate about. I think in terms of some of the real strengths for Rossendale Leisure Trust and my organisation is that's, I think, rounded me physically and intellectually, so eat lots of cakes, that's been a problem. But it's given me a wider and broader perspective that I've been able to take back and apply in our day-to-day work of running leisure centres and community programmes and things like that.
And I think, just to jump in so you don't just kind of reel all these off, I think one of the things you would say is absolutely a positive that we've done. So firstly, you need to select the right secondees.
Yeah.
So the secondees, I don't really like that word, but let's keep going with it for now. Yeah. But the people that we're talking about work in really key organisations in regard to the physical activity agenda and future for the people of Pennine, Lancashire, and also are at a certain level to be able to influence change and actually make some of these things happen. So I think the value of having a chief exec of a leisure trust who's also really tied into the local authority and how things can happen for a district is a massive pro for Together an Active Future as we try to get these seeds sown. And the same for Claire Ranwell and Ken Barnsley and the Blackburn-Darwen Council side of things. So I think the right people to be able to do that is absolutely vital and is a massive positive for us, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think typically with secondees, you probably wouldn't have a chief executive on secondment or a head of service or someone who's really high up in the public health world. We don't know what Ken Barnsley does, but we think he's pretty important. And so typically you wouldn't have that kind of secondment. But what's interesting about it is I think it's grown my organisation, but it's also helped the project, I think, have hooks and networks and attachments and relationships at a seniorish kind of influencing level right from day one because of who the secondees are. And so that's been a really interesting thing that probably is quite different from a lot of projects where you might second in a, finance support or, a project leader or coordinator, some of those kind of middle tier roles. So I think that has been interesting, but I think real value to both the project and the organisation where we've come from.
And I think, and the thing I want to talk about now has both positives and challenges with that as well. So I think, and the ability to have people from different sectors to represent a different view helps the team get to a position where you've done as much debate as you could do to get to the right answer. So I'm neither local authority nor leisure trust, and it would be really easy for me to just say, well, I don't need to be, the thing I need to do is this. But actually what you need is somebody there who lives in this world to say, well, yes, but actually if we did that, that could make this better and gives it a better chance of succeeding in this kind of stuff. So that different viewpoint and objectivity, or not even objectivity, sorry, people bringing selfishly their perspective from that organisation, because you need to know that, is great. What it also does, though, is it makes that harder. And not in a bad way, but it makes it harder because we're always trying to marry up multiple different perspectives and views. And having a clear objective in mind can help that a little bit, but actually it sometimes can almost take you away from the clean focus of the thing that you were trying to achieve. Yeah,
I can see that, and I think the other little layer to that is, from my perspective, sometimes you're sitting there trying to have an objective input into a conversation for the greatest good, for the greater whole, if you like, but you sometimes catch yourself thinking, am I saying this because it's right and what I believe, or because it's good for me? With my other hat on. Yeah. And you have to be really careful about that conflict of interest, that objectivity, and that you're not kind of trying to sway things down a route where it's not the right thing, it just benefits me in my other life. And so I think we've managed that well.
Yeah. We've told you to stop wearing the cap that says it's all about Rosendale Leisure Trust.
Yeah, you're not having 20 million quid, so get lost.
I mean, literally a cap. He came in wearing the cap that said that. So yeah, I think another thing I think is of interest is, so yes, it obviously brings in a range of skills and expertise at a certain level, which is great. I think one thing that's quite key, when you talk about, the reason you love it, there's times I'm a little bit jealous of your involvement with TaAF. I ignore all the real difficult stuff that you've got to do for the other 4 days a week and nights and stuff.
Yeah.
But almost, if I'm just on a thing for half a day or a day a week, I can come in and offer the best energy and the best enthusiasm to that, because I know that's that time that I've got, and it's focused and it's really clean. And those short, sharp bursts of energy on a Monday is something that's great to be able to bring. And actually, as a team who work on a thing for 4 or 5 days a week, it's almost like it means each week you get a motivator to come in on the Monday and go, come on, this is still exciting. This is for, even though there's been some challenges in the past 5 days, it's a Monday and I'm here now. So let's bring that energy and enthusiasm a little bit.
I think it's nice to try and bring that. I mean, sometimes I'm like, bring a real downer to the team.
Yeah, I didn't mean you can. I meant it would be great if we had something like that in the team.
I think the thing that you don't see is, and I've articulated this a couple of times, and something I've felt over the past 18 months, that you come on a Monday or whatever day it is, you do a day or half a day trying to give input, and sometimes you go away thinking, actually, I haven't contributed anything meaningful. I've actually just posed loads of questions that now people have got to go away and think about when they were kind of comfortable where they were before you turned up and just torpedoed the whole thing. But it's also that sense of frustration of you're really passionate and it means a great deal to you, the work that you're doing, but you're limited in what you can actually do, not from a passion or desire or even skills and expertise perspective. You just don't have time to really move it forward like you think you could. So it takes me a month and a half to do 1 week's work.
Yeah, and because the reality for you guys is that very same night there's a councillors meeting you have to go to. That very next day something major comes up in one of your leisure trusts that's a drop, and so actually you might not think about TaAF again for the rest of the week. And for somebody like me, that's really challenging, because actually a lot of the time that might mean is each Monday people have kind of forgotten the thing that we did a few Mondays ago because they've not thought about it since then. And it's through no fault of their own, really, but then that means that sometimes you find yourself going over old ground or recapping and giving people context for a thing that was discussed a few weeks ago. And for some of the core team members, that can be a little frustrating because they thought we'd got to a point. And then, because we're a team who like to make sure that everybody's on board with the thing, if somebody's not a bit sure, we revisit it. So some of the challenge might be is, we've done this 3 weeks ago. Well, yeah, but I forgot what it is now, so you have to remind me. And there's no easy way of getting around that. I mean, we have got a few solutions that we'll talk about how we manage some of this stuff. But I think that just sometimes having to provide extra context, reminder of backgrounds is quite frustrating for some of the team.
Well, really annoying, I'm sure. And this kind of delay of I need a decision, but no one's replying to my emails or phone calls because they're busy doing other things. And I think, you can sometimes sense the frustration. I know that the core team who are delivering, 5 days a week, I think overall really value the input of the secondees in terms of perspective and different point of view. But you do sometimes, I'll ask what I think is a genuine kind of interesting question or make a point, and you can see everyone thinking, sod off. You have not just said that.
Yeah, we had this nailed. It was the final end point of this discussion, and Ken's just made us all revisit the very purpose of this thing in the first place.
Yeah, well annoying.
And it can be, but equally, as many times as not, it leads us to a better outcome, because sometimes you need that person to go, hang on, can I just recheck what the purpose of this thing was? Because it's easy sometimes to kind of get lost a little bit on that. So I think there are certainly some challenges, and I think there's a couple of really simple stuff. And one thing is, particularly if you're thinking about bringing in secondees, the systems that you need to have in place are nightmarish. So I work in the NHS. Generally, if you want to try to create any kind of linked network between that and local authority, it's like you've asked for the new concept in AI come from Japan to be installed. You know what I mean? It's really out there thinking to just, can we not just have a shared system that we can access and a shared calendar system and an email system?
Things like the calendar, like really basic stuff, has been a real challenge for us, hasn't it? In terms of, so you've got people from effectively private sector or third sector like me. You've got local authorities. We've got NHS, and the ability for us all to just see each other's calendar.
Yeah.
18 months, 2 years in. I don't know.
It does seem a nonsense. I imagine listeners now going, it's well easy to sort. It's like, well, go and have a go.
Please email me if it is.
Exactly.
Or send us a message on
so
Twitter
or
whatever.
Link together, local authority, leisure trust, NHS. That's as a minimum. Is that those?
And Sport England.
And Sport England as well. Yeah. So if anybody's got a system for that, and I think these are some of the things to think of, and we'll do a little refresher at the end of some of the things to kind of do. So I think we've covered a lot of some of the challenges. I think there are some things though that's worthwhile saying. We're trying to put some things in place to help manage this, because we're not saying that a secondment is the best model to go down. I'm not sure it is. But what we're saying is, but there is, depending on the people, awesome value you could get.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to achieve something like we are, which is fundamental change in how things can happen, particularly in the public sector, there's an argument to say you'll never have the chief execs of big organisations fully in your team.
Yeah.
So a secondment on that kind of basis to really bring in those influence, if it's possible, feels like it's worth some of the aggro that it creates.
And a good way to think about it, I think, is you've almost, through the secondment, you've almost got like men behind enemy lines almost. So if you're doing like a system change project like this, and you're trying to influence, like say, strategic decision making and changing, having people the best way to get people to buy into that is for them to start to lead the project to develop the change and to influence it. So you're behind enemy lines, aren't you?
And let's give examples, so we really believe in trying to engage people in a more interesting and creative way, because actually we think that's fundamental to how you do some of this stuff. And I went to an event last week where you invited me to, where you'd been part of, along with some of your colleagues, designing a really creative event for something that wasn't TaAF.
Yeah.
It was about something that Rosendale Leisure Trust and the schools are doing something together. And actually you'd put on a session that you'd never done before.
Yeah.
If you weren't part of TaAF, that would have never happened. Now you could assume that might influence another 10 or 15 people to think differently about that event. And actually that's where you start to get fundamental change going forwards. Because, as you say, you've got people there who will say, it might not be about TaAF, but it is about a better way of doing things. and you wouldn't have had the skills and experience of some of the TaAF stuff to have done that before. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And equally, those schools who were there had never been some part of something like that.
Yeah, I think there's another good example. A few months ago, maybe even a year ago, I was at a meeting with all of the other Leisure Trust chief executives across the Northwest and Yorkshire and the Northeast. So there's quite a big group of people there. And because of the thinking and the work we're doing around system change in TaAF, I find myself stood in front of 20 or 30 of them talking about what things are Leisure Trust doing that make it harder for people to be physically active. That isn't a question that we tend to talk about that much or be challenged about. What things are we proactively doing that actually on reflection are making it harder for people to be active. And so those types of discussions, if someone had come in to present that point who wasn't part of the group, it wouldn't have been the same thing. It
would have gone down like a lead balloon. Yeah. Who on earth are you? Yeah. They
might have thrown things at them.
Yeah.
And they did.
And I also know that Claire Ramwell has done some things with some counsellors that wasn't a massive change to what they used to, but was introducing some different visual tools to try and kind of do some insight work with them. So, and I think all of these things are really valuable for why it's a great idea to have some secondments. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things we put in place quite quickly that we try to...
some practical tips.
Yeah, some practical tips. So, because our secondees generally are with us on a Monday, what we don't want to do is spend all of that time updating on what's happening in the week, because actually that means all we've done is we've given an update, you guys have heard it, and then you go away.
Yeah.
So we try to actively encourage all members of the team to do WhatsApp video updates. So we have a WhatsApp group we're all part of. We film video updates about this is what I've just done, or I've just come out of a meeting, or this is what I've done this week. I'm going to tell you now, because I'm not going to tell you that on Monday. Because on Monday, I want your brains focusing on this. So I think that's one way we're trying to get around how you manage remote employees who come together.
And the video update has been a lot better, I would say, overall than the written update. Even though it's easier for someone like me to read an email and skim through. That's the whole point, you skim through. But you don't get that personal connection like you do on someone talking to you on a video. So that's been really good.
So it's a virtual team, but you can see my face, which isn't always a great thing. You can hear my voice, which is equally.
You're a solid 6 out of 10.
Thank you. I did my hair especially this morning. I thought I'd get at least a 7.
6.5.
So again, having that regular day.
Yeah.
So we do have. It's a Monday, but in reality, we've changed this a little bit over time. We're learning, but actually, for half a day for a Monday afternoon, we ask everybody to be here, and unless something really big comes up, come to that Monday.
Yeah.
So that knows to say to people, no, that's a TaAF day, and we know that if we have something big, we know it'll get covered once a week. That our people are there that we need them to be. So I think just some structure to it helps massively, rather than trying to do it ad hoc, which would be nightmarish.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that we've started trying to do more, I would say, in the last few months, is trying to empower the core team, trying to almost categorise what things need the whole group kind of strategic discussion, and what things are just get on and just do it.
Yeah.
And I think when we started off, because we were starting off and trying to think about where we're going, everything was a whole team decision, which was great in terms of all the things we talked about, perspective and everything else. But as the kind of workload has ramped up and the number of projects ongoing has increased, we've had to kind of get to that almost that element of delegation, in terms of you're responsible for that area. All these types of things, just get on with it. Which is a challenge, though, because you come back and say, I've got on with those things, and one of the one-day secondees say, hang on a minute, I want to do it like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
Yeah, the just do it is the right mantra, but we're always getting that right balance of, I didn't mean just do it like that.
Yeah, what on earth are you thinking?
So I think the just do it philosophy we're still learning about.
Yeah.
But there is an element of have trust and confidence in the team to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes have to accept that we can't keep revisiting that, and that's the best thing it could have been at that time.
Yeah.
So I think let's maybe just quickly recap on some things there, because we don't want to go OTT with this stuff. I think we're working on a secondment model, and we've talked about some of the pros of that. And I think the obvious ones are fundamentally you get an amazing skills and experience. In our case, at a very senior level, which very few teams have probably got access to. And actually, if you think about from a skills development and experience development point of view, the core team are having access to some really senior people, which can only be good for our own personal development. So me and Andrew and Alison and Leah working with you, Tina, Claire and Ken, that gives us a lot for our future careers, which is a really nice thing to do. It's an extra benefit. It's not the reason we've done that. But that's almost training the leaders of the future a little bit by showing them the leaders of the past.
The very soon to be ending present.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that brings a lot, and I think that bit you talked about, or we talked about, and you've got people in those organisations who can start to drip feed in this or go in gung-ho with this stuff and say, no, we can start making changes in my organisation now because I'm invested, I've got a stake in this stuff, and I think what TaAF are doing is great. I think that's a massive, absolute massive one. And I think as well, just that on a Monday, knowing that I've got the support of those colleagues, or knowing we've got the energy coming on the Monday, is a biggie for helping the team keep that momentum and focus.
I think just being the proper boring accountant, it's cheaper than hiring someone full time. It's flexible in that you can say, actually, Ken, you're not really that useful anymore. We're going to stop your secondment. So there's some real.
You saw my email?
No, I haven't seen it yet. Unfortunately, this is my last episode of podcast. So I think those are just some little gimmies on the side as well, I think.
And actually, in reality, the challenges that we talk about are mostly system and management challenges. So as in how you manage the updates, the involvement, how you use systems to keep people involved. Because actually there's not many other cons or negatives outside of that. And if anybody has got a system that cracks this stuff, or actually we're looking currently at a system out there that might help some of this stuff, I think that helps. And also some of that stuff of, those video updates, those keeping in touch, those kind of putting a face to stuff and reminding people you're part of a team, all feels fab. I mean, my personal experience of it is I don't think I would have changed how we've done it.
No.
And the only thing I could have done is used hindsight to put in a better management system at the start. But we can all use hindsight to be the awesome people we want to be, can't we?
I think, and my perhaps final takeaway is, if there's anyone out there who kind of might be fairly senior in an organisation, actually the time you would invest in working on a collaborative project like this will actually potentially change your perspective and the way that you work. And even though you might be one day 20% less focus on your organisation, I think your output in the other 80% more than makes up the difference. So if you're thinking about, could I take a day out of my week to go and do something different, collaborative, working across sector, then I would say you absolutely can, and you get massive benefit from it. And I've loved it. Loved it.
And just a real quick point as well, and come in open to learning. So you guys don't come in to give.
Yeah.
You guys come in and actually, I imagine all of you will probably say, we do things a little bit differently now. We've learned about different, as well as giving our learning and sharing that insight, we have all learnt from how we approach this stuff as a team.
Definitely.
Which I think is a great kind of success factor. All right, wicked. So, as always, thank you so much for listening. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please subscribe to get notified of future podcasts, and feel free to share this with friends and anybody else who may be interested. You can follow us on TaAF Talks on Twitter. Tweet away and have your say. Anything else from yourself, Ken?
No, thanks very much for listening.
Perfect.
True love. Bye.
Bye.